Hey everyone, today for another vlog. Today I'm again using my uh, headset given, or like borrowed, it's not given to me by my company. So some of the sound is noticeably better. Yeah, today I want to talk about a very difficult subject because it's one where I don't know whether what I'm doing is right or not. It's just so lately my life has felt pretty chaotic, like not in sense in some external sense, but more like in my internal state of being. Like I'm just very genuinely dissatisfied with my work, right? And it's not really something I can change immediately. And it seems that like it's had repercussions on my personal life. Like I just feel way more. I just feel like the need to like indulge into things more than before. I don't know if it's really new actually. Maybe it's just because it's been repressed for a long time. But like for example, like porn, for example, I've always been trying to minimize it as much as possible, right? Now, lately, I don't feel like I want to minimize it, and this is what I mean by perhaps this is not a good idea to talk about this because I don't think, I don't know whether what I'm doing is right or not. That being just to just allow myself to just, you know, do it as long as it doesn't have like heavy repercussions on my life. Like it doesn't have any repercussion on my finance, and that's just an excuse I give myself. I don't know, and I mean, it definitely has repercussions on my mind and my relationships, right? So it's something to take seriously, but at the same time, I feel like I've tried this approach of just stopping. It's never worked for me consistently. It was good at giving results in the short term, and I think it's important to have that. But I feel like I'm at that point where I don't really need short-term results at the point where I'm at, and I want more something like more that addresses the root issues, right? So, in the last video, I talked about the about chakras and how it seems that my three lower chakras are really unhealthy in me. So, like survival being the root, the base of the sexual organs being about pleasure, and the belly being around power. So those three parts in my life are really, I felt like there have always been pretty big problems in my life, like deficiencies or not me handling them healthily. So survival and safety, for example, I've always felt incredibly unsafe in my life, and yeah, that's still a thing. Pleasure, it seems like I don't allow myself to feel, to just, have pleasure and have fun and all that. And power is something I really feel like I don't feel in my day-to-day life, and I don't really know how to express like for example, anger or a feeling of, feeling powerful. That's something I've never really felt. Like I always feel kind of small compared to people, so I would describe it like, obviously not physically, but like just like feeling like they could hurt me, but I can't hurt them in that sense. So I actually remember having a dream about like trying to punch or like hurt someone physically, but I couldn't do it, and they were like laughing at me because I couldn't hurt them, and it's kind of a weird dream. Um, yeah, it was recently. It was like I think it was on Thursday, and we're on Sunday today, and yeah, it's kind of weird how this works. So I can definitely see how these are. Well, they're not the causes, what, but they show symptoms of me being misaligned with important parts of like a human being, but a healthy human being. And at this point, I don't know whether or not I should try to be more disciplined about my life structure, or if allowing myself is fine because it won't last forever. I don't know. It's hard to say because because for example, today I've been allowing myself quite a lot over the last week and a half, like last 10 or 12 days. For example, today I didn't really feel the desire to like go to porn, whatever. I actually woke up and I and there was a and I wanted to program This is a simple thing, program, just to go back to C programming. So C is a programming language if you don't know. It's quite different from like the quote-unquote modern ones, which are very, I hate the term, they use the term high level, but it should be called high abstraction, because high abstraction is not necessarily better than low abstraction, but the common terms, the terms is nowadays it's high level and low level, which makes it seem like one is better than the other. But C is lower level, whereas languages nowadays are more higher level, so you have more abstraction, but at the same time you don't really have as much control over what the computer is doing. So I just felt like doing a C program to learn it again and to like just do some really practical things with like text files. The program was actually super simple. It was just about taking a text file and like every time you meet an empty line, you want to split it into its own text file, right? So you have one text file and you divide it into however many which are demarked by empty lines. So if you have like 3 blocks of text, you split them into 3 notes. So that's it. A very, very simple one, but I just felt like doing it, and that was actually way more interesting than most of the things I've been doing lately, funny enough. So yeah, I don't know if allowing myself to just watch porn and all that is a good idea, but it honestly has felt like a good idea. As weird as it is, I don't know. To me it feels really fucked up to just allow myself, but it feels like it actually feels better because how to say this? It's hard to say how to say it. Because on one hand, it feels like cope, it feels like it's just my addict mind trying to convince myself that it's okay and that it will get better over time. But at the same time, it honestly feels true that actually allowing myself to just do whatever is actually kind of powerful now. At this moment of my life, right? At previous moments of my life, there were moments where I definitely felt the need, and it was very helpful to be disciplined and more like restrictive. But I don't know, maybe it's because I've been so restrictive all the time. Like it feels like I've been stuck in loops in the past. Actually, in the past quite like the past 3 or 4 years, I've been stuck in those loops where like I want to do something, but then I look at the option and I'm like, oh, this is not that interesting, or it's boring, or it's too hard to get into it. Like it's too hard to do that thing, and I just give up. And feels like I've been doing that for like pretty much. And when I get into that loop, I do that for pretty much every activity I can think of. And it feels really shitty, right? Because you want to do something, but you just give up for every option you can think of. Like it's a really shitty feeling. And yeah, as shit as it is to say, but like now I allow myself to just indulge in the things I didn't really like before, such as not just porn, but like video games, for example. I just allow myself to play video games. Actually, I don't know. It's a weird type of better because there's still the shame accompanied, right? But at the same time, there's a sense in which it feels right, even though it feels wrong, but it feels right. I don't know, and I don't know whether I should just go fully with that and just really, really allow myself and not even feel shame about it, or if I should like put some measures like such as video games are okay but porn is not, something like that. I don't know. It's really hard to say, right? Like life was so much simpler when you when there were religions and you had like those rules and stuff. But at the same time, was it really better? Is the question, right? Was life was simpler because you knew what path to walk and what to do and all that, or at least you knew someone who would tell you how to live. But now it's not the case, right? And it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like more liberty means that you also have to face the consequences of harsher actions that you can't just blame on someone else or blame on the religion or philosophy given to you by someone else. So I don't know. It's I don't know how to summarize this phase I'm going through. It's like really no barrier to what I do. Like not even allowing myself to do pretty much everything, and it's actually it doesn't it actually hasn't led to a car crash. Is what I'm saying. Is it a good idea? I don't know, but it hasn't led to a car crash like it has felt before. Like in my inner body experience, it hasn't felt that bad. Like I've actually felt worse. Um, I've actually felt much worse at previous parts of my life than currently, where I just just allow myself. But I don't know. It's hard to say. So yeah, this is what mainly what's been going on. I think the main thing I don't get from my job is really the fulfillment of creating something. There are two things I don't like about my job. The first one, sorry, I have to sneeze. So I have a mute button in case I sneeze. That's nice. So the first thing I don't like about my job is the fact that I don't get fulfillment from like making anything, right? Because it's so. So I have to sneeze again. So the thing I don't get about the get from my job is like fulfillment from actually making something because it's so abstract. What I'm making, like we're working on a program, right, which is like an internal program, so it's used by people who are within the company. So it's like a financial type of thing, and it's yeah, it's so abstract because like you don't see the people that you serve. First of all, second of all, like it's such like a massive contribution of like parts of people working on the code, so you don't even get the satisfaction that I did that. It's just more like I did parts of that, and that thing is so abstract that you don't even see it. Contrast that with like I don't know, you make like a let's say you're a carpenter, right, and you work on like wood or like a wood, or you just work on wood. You're building actual things. Like when you're done, you can actually look at the thing and be like, oh yeah, I did that, and it's it's serving this purpose, and it's serving this purpose because I can see it does X. Whereas when you work on code, like it doesn't feel like that at all. Like not at all. Especially massive code as within a company, which is what most jobs are about. But you don't write small programs, you don't get paid for that. So yeah, I think that's the biggest problem I have with the lack of fulfillment from job. And the second one is that I don't know, I just can't relate with people anymore in in the modern world. It's so hard to relate to people. Like the conversations are just mind numbing. Like people are just so myopic. I feel like in life they're so in it. Like it's actually crazy. I literally don't comprehend how people can enjoy like the modern world of like consumerism and to say mm, gossiping and work and like talking about like the news, talking about like what's on TV. Or I really don't understand it. I mean, it's rich coming from someone who's like addicted to porn, right? Because I understand that like it's easy for me to look at people's consumerism habits, but I also have my own. Like I don't spend money on things. I'm I'm very good at that. I mean, I've only had two salaries worth of money, so maybe it's easy to say that. But like I don't feel any need to buy anything besides the things that are like house and food. But because I haven't bought any of those things, like it's and at the same time, consumerism is not just money, right? So I'm also a consumer. I'm also a slave in some way to my porn addiction and all that. So I understand that I'm not like so far and above beyond people, but at the same time, I don't know, the conversations are so mind-numbing. I don't know what to say. I have to sneeze. Wait. Like, yeah, just it's really the gossip that I don't like. Like, I feel like people just are filling time. I feel like that's really the problem I have with the model, is that people are just filling time. They're filling time with entertainment, and they're filling time with like conversations that are just so mind-numbing. And honestly, sometimes I'm gonna be honest, I wish people just shut up and stop saying anything. I think it would be better for everyone because there is a there's a certain beauty that comes from just silence and dropping to the present moment, right? That is very easily disrupted by people talking, especially when they talk about such like stupid shit that they gossip about, like, oh, did you hear from that other? I heard that people on the other company they get this bonus that we don't get, and on the way to no way to going to our company, I had this problem today with my car, and when I tried to open the door, there was this thing. And it's like, Jesus Christ, bro, it's so fucking mind-numbing. It's crazy to me how like quote unquote that's what quote unquote adults talk about. Meanwhile, they completely accept like the reality of like working, 35 hours, 40 hours a week for like the rest of your life, for like 35, 40 years of your life. So like you multiply those by by those 40 years, and it's like, yeah, people just accept that. Actually, no, they don't accept that. That's the thing. They just submit themselves unconsciously because it's actually okay. Here's my view of people, right? I don't know if it's accurate or not, but my view is that pretty much no one enjoys this actually. But it's so painful to admit to yourself that you don't enjoy it that people just they either double down or they just repress, or a combination of the two. That's my view of people. I don't know if it's accurate or not. Maybe it's just me. Maybe most people actually enjoy the modern world and like all it gives and like all the consumer stuff, and like I really don't see how anyone could. I mean, it's so like dissociative. Like you completely lose touch with your body when you live in the modern world. Like, the act of sitting in front of a computer and all that. It means, and like doing that sometimes is fun. Like it's not inherently unhealthy to dissociate. Like when you do that so much that you basically lose touch of your own body, it's like it's so it's so crazy to me that it's so common. And maybe it's not common again. Maybe it's only my problem. I don't know. It's so hard to know. It's so hard to know because here's the thing. I feel like people don't even know themselves. So how can I know them if they don't even know themselves? Like it's like because they would tell you something like, "Oh yeah, I enjoy video games." Well, of course you enjoy video games because video games are designed to be fun. So like, yeah, of course you enjoy video games and being on the internet because again, internet recommendation system that is designed to hook you in and make you enjoy them. Of course you're gonna enjoy them. Like it's no, I mean it's hard to say. I mean I'm not better than people. I think the first half of this video can make it very clear, right? And all my videos as well. I don't want to pretend like I'm so much above people. But to me, it's more about a certain honesty that I don't get in the modern world. Like it feels so fake. Like people are so fake. You know, my problem with the conversation is not even that people are not intellectual enough. It's actually the fact that it's an awkward middle. So I think because on one hand I would say that people are not intellectual enough, like they don't use their mind well, they don't think enough. But at the same time, I think like people are not emotional enough as well. I think it's like a very like a certain distance that you feel from people. Like they don't share intimate stuff, but they just talk about very safe things that wouldn't threaten anyone, or they don't talk about personal things that. Maybe it's because I'm the problem. Maybe it's because I'm bad at creating intimacy with people. I don't know. Like, but at the same time, I feel like in the work environment, at least, it's so bad. Like the conversations are so distant and cold, and they lack any genuine like humanity or whatever. Like it's so, yeah, it really feels like it really feels like human beings try to maximize safety all the time, basically, and they only become intimate when like they have to, and very few people actually seek to like be to like share about themselves actively. I don't know. I mean, it makes sense because most people are not super receptive usually, so but it's kind of like, how to say, it's weird, but because it's kind of like a, what was it called, dark forest type of situation, where like everyone is hiding because they don't want to be the one who like exposes themselves. And so what you have as a result is like everyone hiding in the forest, so to speak. Even though everyone might want to connect genuinely, might maybe it's not true. Maybe again, maybe I don't understand people. Maybe people enjoy those conversations that are completely unemotional, like any real connection. I don't know. It's so hard for me to say. I feel like I have more things to say, but the video is already 21 minutes. But I mean, I make those vlogs to talk, so maybe I should just keep talking. So let me just do a quick recap of what I talked about. So I talked about allowing myself to just do what I would consider in the past unhealthy habits, and I don't know if it's a good idea or not, especially with porn, right? Like video games I'm fine, but porn I don't know. Talking about like that it's probably because of dissatisfaction with real life that I do those things. Job, awful, boring conversations, and the fact that I don't understand people. The fact that I think I really don't understand most people. But maybe I do. I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, most people, they don't live the life they want. They're just repressed and scared, and they don't know how to. They don't know any better. They just mimic their own environment, right? Like they just mimic their own environment because that's what's always been shown to them through their family, TV, and all that. And so they never seek anything better because they've never been surrounded by anything better. That's my current hypothesis about people, is that most people are simply ignorant and they don't know any better. It's not even like they're bad at doing X, it's that they don't even know what X is. Well, X would be like being like a genuine human being, or like being very, very intelligent, whatever you care about. Like, X is like the ideal. Like, most people don't even know what an ideal even is. Right? There's so much surrounded by modernity and the consumerism culture that they're just completely swallowed by it. So perhaps it would be nice to make it explicit. How to say, what I'm against, right? What I'm against and what I'm for. So I think the closest approximation to a writing that I really relate with is the series, the series of blog posts Exiting Modernity, and its author, of course. His name is Meta Nomad, or James Ellis, and I really like his stuff. He has written way more than just Exiting Modernity, but it's available for free, first of all, and it's probably his most iconic one because it's probably what most people know him for. Although he is also known for like being a podcast host, and I really like his podcast as well. So maybe he's also known for that. I don't know. So Exiting Modernity is about realizing that as much as the modern world, notice how it's called the modern world. Like it's already showing itself as like the best, like the top thing that what human evolution how to say, amounted to, right? Like that was the whole point of human evolution. This was, we went from like evolution of the stars and with the gravitational force that would pull in things, to like the evolution of biology that arose from dead matter to alive, from the sea to the land, and then gave rise to the mammals, and then the mammals they gave rise to the man, the primitive man, and the primitive man gave rise to the modern man. It sometimes feels like that's how modernity, presents itself. And exerting modernity is basically that, uh, yeah, modernity might not be as great as it, as great as it, might sound or might feel like on the surface. Um, and it's kind of hard for me to like summarize it in short, like what, because it's very like how to say, it has several points, but basically like if you're someone who is dissatisfied with the modern world, I would highly recommend to give it a read because I think it describes perfectly what most people who are dissatisfied go through. It starts off with probably one of the best point I've ever heard, being why you should not, why you should not devote your life to an ideology, but instead you should focus on practice. Embodying what you think rather than just attaching yourself to an ideology. That's such a great way to start, in my opinion. That's because I think it's very tempting to like when you're against, when you see the problems in something, which is modernity, it's very tempting to take like this revolutionary stance where like, oh, well, clearly it means we have to destroy it, and because I'm only a lone human being, I cannot destroy the modern system. Therefore, let's create an ideology and come together to destroy it. But like the problem is that ideologies and groupthink they have a certain intelligence of their own, from my experience. This is not from executive modernity. This is my own take right here. Groupthink has a certain intelligence of its own, where every member might have very positive intentions, but the movement as a whole might have very different direction, if that makes sense. The mental image I'm thinking of is like, imagine people who are all trying to move to one side, to one, like just, they're all trying to move like upwards, right? Imagine that. But like the group that they form, the group forms like an arrow that points downwards. You can sort of imagine this, right? Like the group of people, they form an arrow, and that arrow is pointing downwards, which is opposite to where everyone is trying to go. This is the image I have of groupthink. This I'm being very abstract because it's hard for me because I've never like written specifically about that, why groupthink tends to develop a certain intelligence on its own, but like just see at how at all the attempts there were to fight modernity, and all of those ended up being absorbed back into modernity. That is something he also explains in the series. That is, you look at all like those countercultures, and they all get absorbed by modernity. Like the punks, the hippies, the alternative spirituality, right? All of these they get subsumed in some way by modernity. Like you have like the like the punk T-shirts, which is like, yeah, bro, I'm a non-conformist, and I buy a T-shirt that was like mass-produced by millions of people, bro. Or like you have like the spirituality which is co-opted, and you have all these products about mindfulness and how to be more spiritual, bro, and all that. Like if you don't get this app, which is paid by the way, like you're not being spiritual enough, and something like that. Or what else is co-opted now? I guess it's hard to me. I don't go on social media, so I don't know. That's kind of the problem. Again, I don't know if I know people or not. It's something I'm kind of afraid actually. I might actually not understand people at all. Kind of funny, but so yeah, that's how modernity subsumes everything. And so that first essay, there were like 9 essays. The first essay was about groupthink. I don't remember the order specifically, but he also talks about entertainment. Well, as cliche as it is, it's like the 7th one. As cliche as it is, yes, entertainment. We all know that we all destroy ourselves too much, but it's really worth hammering the point, in my opinion. And I'm glad he does it. Talks about, again, one really key essay, which is about if you have to eat shit, then it's best not to nibble. Like it's a very provocative title, but I think it's really important because similarly to how throwing yourself into a revolution is not gonna change anything, both in your own life and in the collective sense. Trying to take the super romantic, extreme, like I'm just gonna live in the woods, bro. Like that's very dangerous to just leave the modern world like that without any preparations. Like if you have the survival skills, if you have the networking skills, like if you know people who do that, yeah, sure, do it. But like, or like at least in my opinion, slow transition to it. But like, okay, if you want to do it, but if you have the skills and the network, yeah, sure, you can do that, and the resources. But if not, it's very dangerous because like the modern world doesn't give a shit if you die. Really, it doesn't care if you die. But you care about your own life, right? So it's very important to recognize the difference. So, but so I've I just mentioned a lot of points of the SMX, but I'm trying to think about like really what's the essence of what speaks to me from exiting modernity. And I think what speaks to me is that it really, it really confirmed to me this feeling that like, is everyone going fucking crazy? Like, am I, am I just, is there something wrong with me, or is everyone just fucking crazy? And this is kind of the feeling that reading Exiting Modernity has kind of confirmed in me that yeah, everyone might actually be crazy. Well, not everyone, but everyone in the westernized modern world, where like the West has kind of infiltrated uh, many civilizations and societies, and like internet culture is like super westernized, right? So even though it might not be on the western part of the world, but still. Oh yeah, this sense that is everyone just going crazy? Like, is this really what we want life to be? And my answer would be that modernity is not the decision of human beings. Similarly to the groupthink image I was trying to give, right? Like everyone trying to move upwards, but the group having the trend of moving downwards. I don't think it's the same. I don't think there's like an opposition necessarily, but like in my experience and from what I've read and watched and listened to, technology is simply like the increase in technology is not something that human beings decide. Like it's obviously human beings have to be involved to create technology, right? Like technology doesn't just arise from like another plane of existence, and that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that the reason why technology is getting better and better and better is not because of we decided like it. It's more like if we didn't increase our technology, then there would be another civilization or another group that would do so because it would benefit. Right? Technology is power, and power allows you to dominate others and to survive better. So because of that, technology just increases because it helps your survival. And so what you end up seeing is a world with more and more technology. Not because the human beings in it actually decide to increase the technology, but because if they didn't, they would get wiped out. That's what I'm saying. So in the current world we live in, it seems like we don't have a choice but to increase the technology. But like, because for example, if the Western world didn't do it, then like China would do it, and we would just get wiped eventually, or like we would get subsumed by like the Chinese culture and so kind of stuff, right? Like so because power is so dominating in the world we live in, my claim is that technology is just inevitable in the current world. Like we can't just, unfortunately, we can't go back. And notice how like the idea of going back in any way or form, like as a trend, as a civilization, we cannot go back. Is my claim, at least in the current form of civilization. But like as an individual, right, there's nothing that stops you from like going back, from not owning like a TV or a computer or like a small. There's nothing that stops you. Right? Like you honestly might actually live better within the modern world still, without them actually, because you would be more focused and you would be more happy and all that. But notice how like the idea of going back always has like those really negative connotations. Like one big theme of exiting modernity, which is not an idea that comes from James, but it comes from other authors, such as John Michael Gray, which is a huge source of that series as well. It's the idea of the myth of progress, and that is related to what I said earlier about like, you know, the image of modernity arising from like, you know, the evolution from the stars to biology to mammals to humans and then finally to modern humans. Well, it's kind of like the myth of progress is that the humans just get better and better as time goes on, and our world just gets better and better, and therefore anything that is in the modern world is necessarily better than before. That is the myth of progress. It's not just that we have better technologies, that there's like in the myth of progress there is this sense of like, oh yeah bro, life is just better, and if you don't have a TV or a smartphone with you at all time and like constant Wi-Fi and all that, and then your life is fucking miserable, bro, and we can't go back. It's got that type of sense, right? Like, which is complete bullshit, right? Like, when you actually look at it face on. But the power of myths and stories is that they are unconscious and they get you to agree without being explicit. Because if they were explicit, I think everyone would be very critical of the myth of progress. But because it's never explicitly stated, or it's never really shows itself, it's more like an implicit idea, right? Then it starts becoming a lot more like people agree with it without knowing it. The same way that like when you have internal beliefs that you don't express to yourself, like you might actually hold on to them very clearly until you express to themselves out loud. Like for example, you could have something like, oh, if there is a single person that dislikes me, then I feel bad. That could be an internal belief or like an emotion that you feel that arises when someone dislikes you. And when you say it explicitly, it sounds completely absurd, right? Like, why should I feel bad if there's one person that dislikes me? Like, it's just one person, right? But when you don't make it explicit, it can become so believable. Like, it can become such a powerful force on your life, and you can really have a lot of control because it's not been made conscious. So I feel like that's the power of myths and stories, especially through the myth of progress. So why have I talked so much about all of this? Well, it's to come back to wrap all of the exiting modernity and all I just said. What I'm talking about is like, yeah, modernity in the, like being in the modern world is like, it feels kind of shit. Like, and I think most people, if they were honest to themselves, at least this is how I imagine people. I mean, maybe I'm just projecting it, but I think most people would just agree. Like, it's not. This is not how human beings live. But you know, it's hard to say. Like, what is so different about the modern world? I think there's a pretty huge difference with the modern world. Actually, like people have historically complained so much about like, their own era, right? Like, oh, people around me are such sheep and all that. But I think there's something very different about the modern world. The difference is that the modern world is completely material. It has no religion, no relationship with like the transcendental, as you might call it, or the vertical. Something higher, right? Something that we can't perceive immediately with our material paradigm. But that is definitely that. That is like what I mean by material. It's you know, it completely rejects. Again, it's an implicit idea, right? Like most people never explicitly think about it, but like, you know, when people have this sense of like, you know, when I'm dead and nothing happens, there's an implicit metaphysics of materialism, right? A complete materialism, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, the implicit and unconscious part of it is really problematic. But you know, because most people never choose whether or not they believe that there is something transcendental or not, or like it's never like a question for them. It just seems like something that is obviously true, right? Like it's obviously true that there is nothing behind beneath or beyond rather the material world, like even though it's not obviously true, it's just an assumption, but when it's made implicit, it doesn't seem like an assumption, it just seems like it's true. So the modern world is very materialistic, it's completely materialistic, and as a result, all of our efforts, they go into like this super hedonistic mode of being, which is like, oh, let's maximize pleasure, because it used to be about happiness, but actually the modern was way more about pleasure than it is about happiness. Because, again, it has many implicit assumptions and ideas about what happiness is, and it sneaks in a much easier form to manufacture, which is pleasure. Pleasure is very easy to sell, but happiness is not. Happiness being like, when I mean happiness, I mean like life satisfaction, basically, like, like, I guess happiness is a tricky thing, right? Most people, like, if you actually sit down, you probably have many forms of happiness, right? So yeah, so the modern is very materialistic, and so I was trying to say, like, why is the modern world so different? The modern is very materialistic, and so as a result, it's very hedonistic, very like much about the pleasure and like maximizing it and all that. And the problem is that it's so fucking good at that. It's so good at maximizing pleasure. It's so good at numbing you and like distracting you to make you feel better. Like, there's so much distraction. There's so much distraction nowadays. The distraction is it's not just the quantity of distraction, it's also the fact that the recommendation systems that we have, like most people use the word algorithm, but I don't like the term algorithm. It's a big misnomer because algorithm is a very generic term. So the recommendation system is so powerful because it can maximize for like watch time, right? So it's very, very powerful because of how customizable it is. And as a result, yeah, the hedonistic nature of the modern world is so powerful. It's so incredibly powerful. You could spend like 8 hours straight on YouTube, and it would feel like nothing. Like it would feel like a glimpse, right? And just boom, you just spent 8 hours because you were so in it, because like it's so powerful. It has such powerful influence on like the mind and the attention and the body and all that. And I think that is really one key thing to me that is very specific about the modern world, which is not true for parts before, because see, whenever we critique the modern world, there will be people who say like, oh well, people have complained about the things like that before, and to get where we are, things are just getting better and all that. And how to say, historically there have always been people who complained and wanted to go to the past, but those people were just deluded and all that. I think it's completely true, false rather, because the modern one really is different, but it's not better in my opinion, like, because it's just as unconscious as before, but now the unconscious is magnified by the incredibly powerful aspect of technology, which is, unfortunately, because we live in an unconscious world, that power is not used well. So why is the modern world why has society always been unconscious? I don't know if I've ever resolved the why question. It's just been an observation to me that is very evident actually when you sit down, that society is largely unconscious. It's not shaped by conscious decisions, such as, for example, what I said earlier about how technology arises not as a conscious thing, but like as more as a race for power. Like, if you don't increase our technology, then you will get wiped out by the civilization. That is one example in which society is not conscious. This is an unconscious process. But I think society as a whole is unconscious because, why is that actually? I feel pretty confident about the observation. I mean, how to give examples? Yeah, I don't know. It's not the point I'm super clear about, for sure. But like, why is society unconscious? It's I feel like society is just the solution to the problem of how do you scale survivability by minimizing like conscious effort, right? Like, let's make a distinction between like conscious effort and like mechanized effort. Mechanized effort is like when someone gives you a program and you just repeat it. And it might be a difficult program, like maybe the program they give you is like how to, I don't know, how to build a house, or like how to, maybe something easier perhaps, how to like do long addition, or like addition of two numbers. That is like an algorithm, right? That is something that doesn't require consciousness. You can just use your like purely rational mind. You can just do computations and you arrive at the desired result. That is mechanized effort. Another form of mechanized effort is like following strict guidance. Oh, what a beautiful loop to what I've said in the beginning, right, about religion and how much easier religion makes it because there's something clear to follow. So mechanized effort is something that you just follow instructions. That is basically it. Like it's like a softer definition than an algorithm, which is more like a computer thing. So mechanized effort is just following a clear set of instructions, and there is no like if or rather there's no like in that context there's some nuance. You might have to like use your own judgment. No, there is no judgment to make. You just do that, and that's the way things are done. This is mechanized effort. Conscious effort, on the other hand, requires you to be in touch with yourself, listen to yourself, pay attention to the context, use your own judgment and your own like guts. Yeah, very different actually. But actually, it's pretty hard to explain to people who don't have this uh, sense of like how different the two are. But this is a key difference. Is that and mechanized effort is it's far easier than conscious effort. It's far easier, and because society is so powerful, and because for some reason society can be very powerful while only being fueled by mostly mechanized effort. And so that it seems like this is why society is unconscious, because ultimately for me it loops back to power. Society is very powerful, more powerful than like individual humans, like 10 like 10,000 humans forming a society is better than 10,000 humans for not forming society. And so the society just wins in the level of power. And for some reason, society seems to be fueled by, it seems to actually work very well with mechanized efforts. Not so much with conscious effort, actually. Like the societies we live in, like when you think about it, like some of the people who tend to be the most conscious, they're never in like the center of society. They're never like people who just love being in society. So it seems to me, and I'm not sure why that is the case, but it seems to me that society, which is roughly equal to power, right? Society is basically the same thing as power. The societies we know of as of right now, right? Maybe there could be such a thing as a society that is about being in harmony with nature. I don't know. But society has mainly been about power, and that power is mainly fueled by mechanized efforts, and I'm not sure why that is the case. I'm not sure why the two seem to go hand in hand, and why people who are conscious, they don't really care about this game of power. It's hard to say. Hmm, maybe because in order to like fuel a machine of power, you need to like how to say create this this divide. Like I can just extract this thing for myself, and it won't have any repercussions. This is what the mind can do. It creates those like divides. And maybe more conscious people can see the backlash of that. Like they can see that actually exploitation doesn't lead to an increase, or it just leads to more hate. That kind of thing. Maybe I don't know. So maybe society is linked with power because so rather power is linked with mechanized and unconscious effort, because when you're unconscious you can separate and be more selfish. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe. Sounds vaguely true, but I have to think more about it. But yeah, point being, I'm unhappy with society. I'm unhappy with modernity, and I've been allowing things that maybe aren't too healthy. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not making final decisions whether I make weekly vlogs to like do like self-evaluations, and this has been one hell of a fucking vlog. This has been 50 minutes. I think my longest before was 20 minutes. So yeah, so it was really long evaluation, but I had a lot to say. I think. Yeah, so this is not permanent, right? My allowing myself to like just watch porn and all that. This is not meant to be permanent, but like I feel like this is important to allow myself just just to feel into how it interacts with myself. So yeah, if anyone has watched this video so far, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week, and I'll be shorter next time, I promise. Or maybe I'll make more vlogs, but like shorter each, like 15 minutes each. Yeah, thank you for watching.